Oh, we're joined now by Matt Baker, who has popped next door from his home. You actually live next door. There's an apartment. There's a one-show apartment. Isn't it?
It's in the basement. It's right. It's dark place down there. Honestly, there's no light or anything, and then suddenly we pop up into the bright lights of the one-show studio, and it all happens.
So who's on the show tonight? Who have you got?
We have got Pam St Clement. You're going to be talking to her, aren't
Do you know what? That's a great booking because we've got her as well. All right, let's compare.
End of an earring.
End of an earring.
What a great name for an autobiography. Yeah.
It is the greatest title of any book of all time. So let's just, because she's coming in later. So what are you going to ask her? I want to double check here.
We're going heavy on earrings.
Heavy. Oh, here. Oh, okay. That's 2 questions gone. Okay.
Yeah, we're going to have it. Well, actually, because we've got a gem expert on the one show now, so we've got this guy who goes off looking for semi-precious stones all around Britain. So we're going to actually give her some earrings that have been made from semi-precious stones around Britain, which is quite a nice touch. Have you got a gift for her?
Oh no, he's stuffed us.
You haven't got any? Oh, come on! Yeah, what? Don't tell me you're not gonna. We've got an animal that we're gonna name after her.
We've got a half packet of biscuits. No.
I think. Well, do you know what? That'll tear up nicely for us because obviously it'll be this afternoon, then to us tonight.
So look, after the one show goes out tonight, you're gonna make us cry at 9 o'clock this evening.
Yeah.
This is a big, big show. Tell us about the gift.
Yeah, it's a brand new programme starting 9 o'clock, BBC One, and it has taken 2 years to film. And it's about that basic need of wanting to say thank you or sorry to somebody from, an incident that you may have had in your life. And you've done everything you can to try and find them. You just can't. So basically, that's where we come in. And it's a programme that just unfolds from the very beginning. This really is the nature of how we filmed it, because you know what it's like. You normally sit down, you've got an interview for 3 or 4 minutes with somebody and you try and get what you can out of them. With this, completely unbriefed, just sit down and just start talking to this person and for the first time hear what it is that's on their mind. And I may be talking to them for 3 or 4 hours. And after that initial sit-down conversation, we then go and research it and try and find more and try and track down this person that they so desperately want to find. And then from there, we hopefully find the other person in the story, then convince them to meet and chat, and then I'll go and meet them for the very first time and introduce to them that this person wants to talk to them, wants to find them, and find out their side of the story. And it just, the first story that you'll see tonight is a guy called Patrick, who was a member of the Welsh Guards, and he got blown up by an IRA mortar round, and it was part of the whole thing. They said to everybody that was involved, whatever you do, don't go in. So there was a crew that heard what happened. The story goes that they held down the button on the comms so that everybody could hear what was going on right there on the location where this guy was lying. And the helicopter crew heard it, picked it up, and they said, right, we're going to go in and get him. And this fairy tale story unfolds where they dropped him off at the hospital, and during all of his rehab, he then meets his wife. They have 5 children. And all of this happens, and the guy the crew, they just flew away, and they didn't know any of this had happened.
And so the crew and Patrick, they've never been in contact. They weren't able to find each other.
Nothing.
No military records.
Well, the trouble is, all the military records are so secure that we couldn't go, just go and get books off shelves and start flicking through them all. It's
so
all
where do you
kept under
start?
wraps.
Where do you start on something like this?
Well, there was tiny little things, and this is what often happens when you talk to somebody for so long, that you look back over those tapes and you hear them say something and you go, well, hang on a minute, let's try that and let's try that. And eventually he heard this phrase that somebody on board was connected to the master of Falkland Castle. And that sentence that he said basically made the programme, and you will not believe where it goes.
And that's just one of the stories. So there's 2 stories in each show, and there's 4 shows in total.
Yeah.
So for the people, it's hard enough for the people themselves to face that point where they want to say sorry or they want to say thanks. For you then going in there, because you're a broadcaster, you're not a counsellor. And you are a bit of a softie. I've seen snot on your nose on that rickshaw and a little tear in the eye.
Yeah.
So for someone like you to go in there, how difficult is it holding it together?
It is difficult because you are kind of you're playing that mediator, really, I suppose. And but because there's sort of one story, but there's 2 sides to it. And it's remarkable when you look at 2 different sides of one story. And that's what's the most exciting thing about it. And so, for example, the other side of the story you see tonight, the guy that we go and find had no idea, and he hadn't thought about him after he dropped him off at the hospital, and he feels really bad for it. And then suddenly all this unfolds. Listen, he's a big guy that is incredibly successful, and part of his success comes down to that day.
We
That's
could
all I'm gonna
leave
say.
this now, and people are tuning in at 9 o'clock, but we're not. We're going to play a record, and then we're going to come back and talk a bit more. So there's two sides to every story. You're hosting part of this show, and then your partner in crime is...
Mel.
Yes, from Mel and Sue.
Yeah.
Now, I was amazed. There was a little clip I think you guys had on the One Show where it's a completely different side of her that we see.
You see, this is another. It's 9 o'clock, right? It's proper adult telly. This is the only thing I've ever done that my kids cannot watch. It's odd because you'll see us in a different light. Like, for example, you think Mel will sit down and start cracking jokes, but she doesn't. But she's so amicable anyway. She's the kind of girl you want to sit down and have a cup of tea with, and that's the kind of the vibe of it. And you know, people have said to me, "Oh gosh, I've seen a completely different side to you," but I do have a serious side to me, and like I say, I just love to sit down and talk to people and find out what makes people tick. And it's this need to say sorry or thank you. And I mean, in the second program, I meet a bully who wants to go back and apologise to those people that he really traumatised. So it was awful what he did to him and how he treated him, and how this poor little guy just folded up and would sit in a corner, and how his life has gone on. And I found him, and it has affected him big time. And this bully just desperately had to go back, and he became the victim, did the bully.
So it sounds to me that there's so much whimsy and nonsense on telly. This seems like it's proper meaty stuff. It's life-changing stuff, but it doesn't come together quickly. So you've only done 4, and if it's the success that we think it's going to be, have you started researching more of these, or do you have to wait until the 4 go out? Like, is this going to go on for years? How does it work?
I think so. I think it'll take a while for people to get used to it because it's incredibly intense. You will reevaluate your own life after watching this series. There's no doubt about it. You will think about those moments in your life when you should have said thank you or you should have said sorry. And it will change the way...
Oh, Matt, don't be saying that. I'm going through them here in my head. Oh, no.
You will be back. Honestly, you'll be contacting so many people after watching this go out. But,
do you know, whenever I got the brief through and you were coming in, and then I watched the One Show last night and I knew what this show, and I started last night going through in my head and going, oh, who do I need to apologize? What do I need to apologize? Is there anything that you need to apologize, for in your career? My career needs
oh, really?
way too many too many sorries for the stuff I've done. I've done some proper rubbish.
Have you? Do you know, I've been all right. I'm quite good at saying sorry. I'm pretty good at saying thank you, but I'm very good at saying sorry.
You see, sorry's one of those words that if you say it and you mean it, it's one of the most brilliant words in the language. Because what I used to do was I used to try to make excuses and say, and the moment you just go, you know what, you're right, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's quite a powerful thing.
And I think it's better, it's more powerful like the day after as well. Do you know what I mean? So you've really had time to think about it, and you go back and you say, look, I've been thinking about it, blah, 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 whatever it is, and I'm sorry. And it brings you closer together to someone, I find.
I feel closer to you, even just having this chat. So how much does the One Show prepare you for something like this? What was it straight off the diving board? Because the brilliant thing about the One Show is that you've got great entertainment and whimsy, and then you guys are able to segue into something really heavy. Does that help at all with this, or does nothing prepare you?
Yeah, I think what it does prepare you for, because we shoot it live as well, even though it's kind of 4 hours of chat, we'll have a fair few cameras in and around the room, and within minutes the person you're speaking to has forgotten that the cameras are there. But there's no retakes, so that kind of helps really. And just reacting and being responsive and knowing that what we get in that chat is all we've got to go on from the next stage of our research. So you have to literally get everything out of the person. And then you can go, right, okay, like, for example, that moment I was saying when this guy said the Master of Falkland Castle. If we hadn't have got that, we wouldn't have had a story.
Whenever Pam St. Clement comes into your show tonight, can you say sorry from me because we didn't get her jewellery? Can you sort that out for me before?
Tell you what, yeah, you do the sorry and I'll do the thank you for our company this evening.
Okay, it is on tonight, 9 o'clock on BBC One for The Gift That Keeps On Giving.